Tales from the Dark Multiverse, Infinite Crisis, Issue 1. James Tynion IV writing and Aaron Lopresti on the art.
So, I hope you guys have read Infinite Crisis before.
Oh yeah,
come on.
Well, no, but I think Connor makes a good point. I think if you haven't read Infinite Crisis, even though it tries to kind of recap some of it, I feel like if you don't already have a basic understanding of it, this issue will be a nightmare to follow.
I think this issue, compared to the other Dark Multiverse issues, suffers in that regard. The other ones have been particularly well-known stories, or even if you've never read them, they're really easy to explain in like a couple of sentences, right? Nightfall, Death of Superman, Blackest Night. It's Green Lantern zombies. That's kind of all you need to know enough for this. Infinite Crisis, not so much.
Yeah, especially since the book does actually have little like winks and nods to all the other parts of it. It has winks and nods to Secret Six. It has a part where Blue Beetle stops the Rann-Thanagar War, which is a big part of the whole build up to Infinite Crisis. There's a lot of these things that it connects to.
Yeah, he circumvents the OMAC project. He keeps the villains from uniting. He prevents the Rann-Thanagar War, and denies the Spectre's Day of Vengeance.
Do you know what's so funny about this is that I think I enjoyed this because I love Infinite Crisis. So all the little ways it sort of circumvented all those elements, I was really into. I do think this one was the longest one to read because it felt so goddamn wordy compared to the others.
I think it's because they were like, we need to at least try and give the people who didn't read it a chance.
I know, but jeez.
Yeah. And when you try to explain Infinite Crisis, you also need to have an understanding of Crisis on Infinite Earths, just the bare minimum of how that ends and where they go away to, and then being disappointed in Superman or Superboy Prime.
That's the thing.
Punching reality.
It's a sequel in many ways to Crisis on Infinite Earths. It's picking up on a lot of stuff left over from Identity Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
It's got all its own. You've got the Secret Six, you've got the Checkmate stuff, you've got the Rann-Thanagar War, you've got OMAC, you've got everything that this deals with as well. There's so many threads to this book that I think if you're a fan of that period of comics and you've read that, I think this is a great issue. I kind of love it because of that, and because I like those things.
And so I don't know if I really enjoyed it because, like Pete says, I already like Crisis on Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, the caveat I was going to say though to it is that I don't necessarily know if I buy that Blue Beetle does all this necessarily, like the core motivation.
I do. I do because it's not just the motivation; it's the nanotech, right?
Yeah.
He's being played by Brother Eye as much as Brother Eye is.
Sure. Okay, that's fair.
That's right. Yeah. So that's how I read it, because by the time you get to the end and he ends up killing his best friend, that's the final thing.
I got to the end of this book.
He's taking over.
I got to the end of this book, and like Booster Gold's trying to talk Blue Beetle down, because at this point Blue Beetle's like he's become like super Brother Eye like man, right? And he's assimilating the Justice League, and Booster Gold's trying to talk him down, and Brother Eye's like, no, you must remove the Booster Gold hero. He is part of the heroes and will destroy this whole plan. You must remove emotion from the equation. And he's like, no, damn it, I want to listen to Booster. And then Brother Eye just takes over. And the final like page, or not the final page, but one of the final parts of this is basically that Death of Superman panel of Lois holding Superman, but it's Blue Beetle holding Booster Gold. And I thought to myself, oh well, Matt just blew his load.
Super sad.
I love the art, and this Lopresti is perfect for this era of comics. That they're doing.
I'm not gonna lie, this made me want to do something with reading all this stuff again.
It did. Like, and as much as I love all this stuff, we don't have the time for all that.
However, that said, I'm closing out on Checkmate, which made me want to go back and check out the OMAC project, because it's been forever since I read that.
Mm-hmm.
So I might have went and picked up the OMAC project. Which this double reinforced, like, yes, go. And then this opened me up to a bigger question of, is this my favorite era of comics because it's when I first got into it? Or is it because the stories were better or more my speed?
A level of interconnectivity that we don't have now.
Yeah.
In some people might see that as a positive and some as a negative, in the sense that, now we have a lot of great standalone stories consistently, but when they do the connectivity, I think it's not done as well. See the Doom symbol.
Yeah, so when I first was getting into comics and stuff, it was right around Infinite Crisis, and the lead up to that, you had Crisis of Conscience, where they found out that they were mind wiping people from Identity Crisis and whatnot. And when they started rolling out these minis, I only picked up Villains United and OMAC Project. I still haven't read what was it, Day of Judgment or Day of Vengeance?
Yeah, Day of
Or
Vengeance.
Rand Thanagar War.
There was the Superman, Wonder Woman, Shazam story in there that was really good. And obviously had the Secret Six, Villains United one, and all that stuff.
I read that, and then I read Secret Six coming out of that by Simone. And I picked up OMAC Project mostly because of Booster. And at that time, I was like, oh, this Greg Rucka guy, he seems to write really well.
Yeah, and Crisis of Conscience, that was just an arc in JLA at the time, right? But
that was JLA, yeah. That was John's.
That was
picking
John's.
up from Meltzer. Right,
it was very much a time in comics where you were dropped in the deep end.
Oh yeah, I mean, I read all this stuff.
I swam. I learned so quick.
I read all this stuff properly in order because they put out the omnibus, and this was back when I was still getting physical collections and stuff. And I got the omnibus, and it had all the build-up stuff, and I read all that up until Infinite Crisis.
So that's where I said, like, I don't know if I really enjoyed this just out of nostalgia, or because this is a time of comics that I super really care about, and this is like my jam. Like from right before Infinite Crisis to the end of Blackest Night, like that's my prime era.
Which to be fair, it's only 2 or 3 years. That is not a long time.
I know.
It's actually a quick window.
So much.
We have been doing the podcast longer than that window was.
Yeah. Well, like, and that's where we also had like the Lightning Saga and GLA, JSA. Those all clicking. The Teen Titans, like Johns is at his height. You have Morrison, Rucka, Johns, and Wade doing 52.
Yeah,
think about that lineup.
Yeah, like, it's insane. The mid to late 2000s was a great time for DC.
It's true golden era.
This book, and then
the New 52 came along, took it out back and shot it with a shotgun.
Yeah. And as much as we all, for the most part, are pretty positive on Rebirth as a whole. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, not every book, but generally speaking, Rebirth has been good. It's not ever hit those heights as a whole.
Back and reading Checkmate, and Checkmate reads just as well 10 years later. I don't want to say it was my favorite of them, but it does do its job as a dark what if. I think almost better than some of the others.
Joe, I like about it in terms of being a dark what if is that it actually takes a while before it turns dark. For a while, it's almost like Booster. Sorry, not Booster. Not Booster.
Blue Beetle.
But I was trying to say Ted Cord, but I said Booster. But Ted Cord, like when he. Like for a while, it's like no, he's actually kind of doing good. He's kind of solving everything, and everything's fine. He stopped all these bad things.
Yeah.
Him and Sasha or Sasha Bordeaux, they are Checkmate effectively, and they start fixing the stuff that we all saw went wrong. But then we find out like, oh no, some of the stuff needed to happen. Like Alexander Luthor needed to win a little bit during Crisis.
Yeah, well, yeah, because he's in charge for months, and then eventually Alexander Luthor and Superboy Prime show up to explain, hey, we're doing this thing, we should work together. And then he basically talks Superboy Prime into turning on Alexander Luthor, and that's probably the most violent we get in this book, is Superboy Prime burns him alive with his heat vision in a full-page spread.
Well, that's because Alexander Luthor unleashes this kryptonite acid that kills Kal-El and Golden Age Lois.
Yeah.
So
it's brutal.
But
just say Earth 2. Just say Earth 2 Superman. When you say Kal-El out loud, you can't tell that it's spelled differently.
I know. I didn't think about that.
I mean, to be fair, there's the common conception of, okay, that's Kal-El and the other one is Clark or Superman. Right. So I think there is a clear distinction, even when you're saying it in context.
But either way, they get killed, and OMACs take over. Brother Eye wins. And it's basically Skynet DCU, by the end there, and Tempest Fuginaut. Like, oh man, that did it? Yeah.
In terms of the only thing that does weaker than the Crisis 7 in terms of the beats that it's aiming on is Superboy Prime's shift to evil.
Right.
I think it kind of misses a beat there where, because we're so caught up in Ted's
he never gets that opportunity to fully break bad, right? because they've been changing things, but
like it starts to happen when he goes after the Titans and he's like, "Oh, I'm not going to hurt you unless you resist. Please resist." And you see it there, but it's not the big deal that it was because we're caught up with Ted. And I feel like that's just you could have still had that be a little bit more effective.
I think that's just a sign that the book's focus wasn't on that. Like, that was something that has to happen because it's just part of the plot. But the book wasn't interested in exploring why he turns evil. It was more about just how Ted's.
I don't think I needed to why. I just think I needed a little like something in the middle of he's Ted's right hand man to, oh, I'm going to hurt you now. It just kind of. It's just a very sudden switch. There's no kind of build to it at all. I just needed like an extra scene in the middle.
To be fair, out of the 4 of these we've had, only Blackest Night's been, I'd say, bad.
I agree. Yeah. I think this is bad for a certain audience. I think this is the least accessible, by far.
But for us,
it's kind of my favorite in the sense of seeing all these things. I like, and the art. There's some great touches, like when in this book Ted shoots Maxwell Lord, it's the exact same panel as the original, but reversed. It's down to the exact same sound effect. Like,
which I might have picked that up as well.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is great. I'm so into this stuff. These little referencing bits, and I think just seeing it all, the descent into the madness for Ted. You're actually seeing that, like you say, things are going well seemingly at first, and it doesn't feel as immediately shite as all the rest of the worlds did. Like even Death of Superman, where it was like, oh, Lois is doing some good. It was like 2 pages later, okay, now she's not doing so much good. Oh, yeah. Whereas because
we believe in Ted, and we know that he didn't kill Maxwell Lord out of a sense of going dark. It was, well, no, it's kill or be killed, and I got him.
Yeah.
So, and then where those dominoes fall later,
the stuff with Ted, like feeling overlooked by the Trinity, is great.
Yeah. No, really, I really enjoyed this. A little bit long, but other than that, really enjoyed it.
It's just honestly, these issues, if nothing else, have made me feel like I'm not reading enough old DC stuff right now. So I mean, let's rate it. Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give this an 8.
Connor.
I'm going to 9 because I had a blast.
I have some reservations because I don't feel like I feel like part of us is just as good as it is just because we all love this era and we love all the things.
Yeah, that's the nostalgia.
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the straight 8.